Welcome back to Eduwell. Today we're doing a calendar check-in, an episode focused on mapping your time with intention and care. It's not just about staying organized, it's about aligning your days with your energy, your priorities, and your peace. So let's dive into the well and take a few moments to pause and plan together. Welcome to the Eduwell Podcast, a show created for, by, and with teachers. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chelsea. Our goal is to share insights and connect with fellow teachers on how to thrive both personally and professionally.
Join us as we dive deep into the well of information filled with relatable tips, practical discussions, and ideas that go way beyond the classroom walls. Let's be well
and do well together.
A quick heads up, if you're listening today and haven't joined our Eduwell newsletter yet, now's the time. When you sign up, we'll send you our Wellness Bingo Challenge to help you care for yourself this season. Okay, let's start by thinking about and talking about where we are right now.
Well, we've had that mix of anticipation and appreciation for our time off, but now we're at the point where things really start to ramp up. And as teachers, we can all relate to how busy September feels. For me, I'm starting by just taking a breath and acknowledging how full this month always is. Luckily, I feel like I've got the energy to take it on, but I know it's going to take some serious planning. I'm always trying to avoid that overwhelm, so that's why today we're talking about awareness, planning with purpose, and making sure there's one thing in the calendar just for you, or maybe more than one thing. What are you thinking right now, Alex?
I'm thinking how lucky we are that we've seen enough cycles in the education year that we fully understand what's about to hit, what's about to happen, and that there are cycles. And that gives us a massive advantage. The disadvantage of that is there's a level of dread that might come along with it. And for me, that looks like this. I know that first week of school, even the day before we get students, we are inundated with information. And it's information overload. It's calendars for the school, calendars for the board. We have to think about our own personal calendars, the calendars of our family, and our own personal needs within that, functioning within that. And this just reminds me quickly, Chelsea, that my sister said to me the other day, you don't have to hold all the information in your head, Alex, but you do need to know where you can get the information. And I think that this episode is going to help me personally to really lay out the information so that I don't necessarily have to hold every little bit of the dynamic in my head, but I will know where to access it.
Okay, well, that's perfect because we're better to access information than your calendar. And you know what? It all starts with self-awareness. So the first topic we're going to cover today is self-awareness. But I want to start with a quote from a book I read called The Happy Teacher Revolution. Nothing in nature is ever constantly blooming. I think that's such an important reminder when we're planning our calendars and looking ahead. There are going to be times when we feel overwhelmed, tired, or just completely exhausted, and that's okay. Just like in nature, we're not meant to always be on. And as teachers, we can feel like we have to be at our peak all the time. But the truth is, there are plenty of moments throughout the year when we don't and shouldn't have to be. I just think these are the times when we need to pay attention to our rest and make that space for ourselves. I know that's one thing I've learned throughout my years of teaching. Make space for that rest and that time for yourself. This is not about being lazy. It's about recognizing that rest and downtime are a necessary part of growth and your creativity and sustainability.
And with anything cyclical, which I love that you're associating this with nature. And I have to be honest, while you're talking, I'm thinking about animals in hibernation. I love the idea of ebb and flow. And we don't need to be on and on our A game and going 10 all the time because it is not attainable. And this is a good time for me to mention our rest series, rest 1, 2, and 3. Because rest is a part of being alive and being able to go and show up and do well. So the second thing that we really need to look at is what is coming for us as teachers and being able to look ahead. But before we can look ahead, it's always important, in my opinion, to look back and look at your previous calendar or calendars. I like to look back at every single thing that I've written down. I like to see things that I've accomplished on those lists that I have all over the place. And it's another way of looking backwards and celebrating and realizing, oh, I did do a lot last year. But in that process, you can really look at the rhythms of your daily, weekly, and monthly teaching cycle. You can see in your own calendar and pair it with the teaching cycle of anticipation, disillusionment, survival, rejuvenation, and reflection. And we've talked about that a lot in season one. Um, but looking with that lens, with that in mind, and then to really consider your own, this is really important here. This is, for me, number one, your personal seasons. When are you energized? When do you have those big, ugly dips? We all have different things that have happened in our lives. We might have chunks of time where they're really hard times for us. You and you alone know where those times are and what you need to do for you to mitigate or to really just self-care. So think about and ask yourself how you may have felt that month in that year or that week in that year, and really reflect and think about what you needed, what worked well, what didn't, and what would you change, and what might stay the same for you. So really include in your calendar planning like a wellness check-in for yourself. So pull out whatever calendar it is that you use. And of course, that's very personal, and glance over the next 6 weeks, and then maybe look bigger picture at 3 or 4 months. Like, what is on the horizon, and think about what's upcoming.
Yeah, I think it's so important to pull out the calendar that you used last year because you can forget. You can forget over the year. Things fade. And I've talked to so many teachers this summer, and we all go into the summer and we're thinking, okay, we're going to do all of these things. And then we sort of let that go. And then by the end of the summer, you go, oh my gosh, it's over. What did I do this summer? And sometimes people are hard on themselves. They're like, oh, I didn't get this done and I didn't get that done. But that's okay because this is our rest time. You can't get everything done in the summer, even though you're off. So I really like going back and looking at what you wrote down, the goals that you met, even just seeing all of the check marks on the to-do lists that I have in my calendar makes me feel really good. So let's talk about what we're using now, Alex. Are you using paper? Are you using digital? What are you using?
Okay, I'm not streamlined, and I know our listeners are going to be shocked by this. We have a calendar in the kitchen that has random bigger family things on it. So, like, let's say a family member is going to be out of town, so that we have an idea of who is and who is not going to be in the house. Okay, and that's the limitation of that calendar. I have a calendar on my computer. I have a little pocket calendar that I use. That is paper, and I pull it out and I add things into it. Part of the and I have a few other calendars. I just don't want to talk for too long here, but dead serious. Each calendar is a different sector of my life, and it is not streamlined. And so there are conflicts, like a personal conflict versus a family conflict, a personal conflict versus my volunteer work conflict, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And every once in a while, there's a collision that happens where I have to be super creative because I've booked myself so that there's literally no time in the day to eat. And so I am really going to listen to this episode extra and try to apply it, because this is an area that I need to work on. How about you, Chelsea?
I have my work calendar, that's digital, and I have my personal calendar, which is like a book-like planner, which
Right.
I love. I don't want to put them together because I like to keep work separate from personal life. And it works. It works for me because I open my computer at school, I close my computer at the end of the day, and then I use my paper personal calendar outside of school. As for the family calendar that you were talking about, I've made the effort. I've done the whiteboard in the kitchen. I've done just the pencil in calendar in the kitchen. It does not work in my household. I'm going to tell you what I've gone to, okay?
Okay.
I have gone to a Monday memo.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's hear
I'm
it.
telling
Okay.
you, this works. I have a group chat with my family. So if I want to tell them something and they're out all doing their own thing, I'll send it in the group chat. Because, like, listen, no matter what happens with my husband, it's always, when is the volleyball practice? The volleyball practice is on Tuesday. It's from 5 to 6:30. And I get asked this every week. And I'm just like, you know what? No, no more, no more. So I'm giving out a Monday memo to everybody in the family. So everybody in the family knows what's happening and they can just check that Monday memo. This I am loving. I'll tell you that.
So are you one of those people now who realizes, oh, I've shared all this information. No one should be asking me this question. And just like a principal might do, when you ask a question, you might go, it's in the Monday morning memo. Like you've been shared this information. You check your email. You checked your text, right? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I do. And listen, everybody we work with really appreciate that Monday memo. Am I right? It's just an overview. It's a list of what's going on this week, and you can always go back to it. It's so helpful.
And it's easy to find. You just write MMM or Monday morning memo, and then it
Yes.
pops up. Whereas I find Google Calendar to be very like, oh, now I got to click here. Now I got to click there. And is this for me? Is this for, it's just too much looking. It really highlights the thing that the person creating the calendar, who's the person who's the organizer, let's say, the overarcher, they feel is important. It's a really good, these might be actionable. So I do
Yes.
like a Monday morning memo. I mean, a part of me is listening to this and I'm like, oh my God, are we talking a whole episode about calendars, Chels? Like, are we doing this right now? And yet I'm strangely engaged because I know the benefit of this level of organization. And it might be laughable, but I find it to be quite, I don't know, just so very useful. So,
Okay. Well, there's nothing laughable about it. It's exciting. I love it.
yeah, okay, I can love it too.
Come on.
I can admit to it. No, it's fine.
It's great. Calendars are great. And I have learned that over the past few years, just how helpful they are because they help you to be that much more intentional, of course, right? So I'm going to go back to this September because for me, it's my home life that really overwhelms me the most. So I start looking at the calendar in August and then I begin mindfully mapping how to make my home life run smoothly in September, which is, of course, going to make my work life that much easier. And that involves writing everything down in that planner, not just places that I have to be, but things like, okay, this is a big list, but gifts, birthdays, cards, special occasions, holidays, meal planning, things I have to start organizing and planning. And, it helps with the overwhelm because kind of like you said, you get it all out there. You do the big brain dump and then you can start organizing the brain dump. And I feel like we have the energy to do that. We're a little bit more renewed now going into September, right? It's like our new year.
Right. So one of the things that you just threw out there, you said birthdays, gifts. Then we were talking about work a lot, and work dominates so much of our calendar. But we need to make sure that we're prioritizing our number one responsibilities, which is to ourselves, of course, and to our families. So that brings us to our third point, which is anchoring the non-negotiables. So plugging in first those family vacations, the family time, the appointments for you, the appointments when I say appointments, it could be something that, you might be going and having an appointment with a friend to play squash or to go hunting. And that is part of your self-care to make sure that you're able to do everything else that you need to do to fill your well, which is what this podcast is all about. It's identifying those tricky times, for you personally. I know for me, report cards has always been a very tricky time for me where I have to really prioritize work and I have to communicate with my family. And that's something I need to note in the calendar, to have that conversation because that's top priority.
Knowing where you're setting those boundaries, which we have talked about.
Yeah, like those trigger points where it always causes conflict and strife within you or within your family or within your friendships because you need to carve out that time. We've talked about this before on the podcast, like communicating with family. I'm going through a really stressful time. I'm going to need 2 quiet days. And I know that's aspirational for some right now. We're in the thick of it. But I'm finding that communication piece and knowing what's coming up has been key to really a much more peaceful life. I've also started prioritizing habits and things that I want to do for me in the calendar as something that is once again, non-negotiable. It is a top priority for me. It could be something like a walk, like I said. It could be drinking water. It could be going to yoga. It could be cleaning out a drawer if that brings me a level of joy. You've talked about meal prepping a fair bit and putting that into like a calendar, as in 2 hours of meal prep on Sunday, because it, let's say, pays you forward.
Yep.
I just think that it's acknowledging that the things that you do, the time that you give to you, is just as valuable as the hour that you have to spend on a single learning skill. So it's scheduling in time for you. And I just want to throw out that I have a friend who's really good at this, who's really worked on creating strong boundaries around what is her personal time and what is time that's, accessible to all. And it's been a real inspiration to me to find a little bit more balance when it comes to this.
And write it down. Write it down. I can't stress it enough. Write it down every day, because when it's written down, you're more likely to do it if it's one of your habits. And then that's how you make it automatic. Oh, and didn't you have a tip on like emojis?
Yeah, I do. Okay. So, this tip is successful for me. So, you know how you said you like to look back and see what you did?
Yes.
Okay. So, what I do is I'll, like, let's say at the end of the week, this is working backwards in a calendar, which you can also do. Because sometimes you wonder, what have I done with my time? What have I accomplished? Right?
Yeah.
So I have little emojis that I use for certain things. So like, let's say I go and I do a yoga, I will put a little yoga person emoji. And then let's say I go for a walk, I put a walk emoji. Some calendar days have like 5 walk emojis. Okay. Let's say I sit and spend some time on my finances and I do some work on that. I'll put a little money sign. Let's say I go for coffee with a friend. I will put a little coffee cup emoji and I'll write coffee with so-and-so. Because I often feel unaccomplished or often feel like I'm not doing enough in all these different sectors in my life, right? And then I look backwards and I'm like, no, you have been doing things.
Mhm.
And so it's just really also noting everything that you do in a day, because so much of what we do in a day is we just do organically, but it's celebrating or honoring those small moves towards a nicer existence. That's all. Like it's podcast. I put little like what's it called emoji, either headphone or sometimes the mic emoji. Yeah.
Well, there's something about those little visuals that just make it that much more exciting and fun and cute. I'm going to use the word cute because they're cute. I have them on my family group Monday memo.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, because then someone just looks and they're like, oh, I don't care about workout, or I don't care about these emojis. I care about this one. It's kind of a visual guide. I like emojis.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about time blocking, using those timers. Hey, I know you've been using timers this week. Tell me about it. How did it go?
Okay, I really did use timers this week. Well, I've been pomodoring. I'm reading a really good book about education right now, written by an amazing author. And I really want to read this book, but the idea of reading it cover to cover, let's say, is overwhelming for me at this point. So I'm giving it 1 hour a day. So I did that. Then I also had a bunch of organizing to do in my house, and I was avoiding it like the plague. So I gave it the Pomodoro, basically intervals of time, and then 10 minutes of cleaning, let's say. And my house was spick and span. Some of my family members are laughing when I say this, but it's true. At the end of it. And then I have to share this trick, because we always say to lean on someone. And I'm going to share this now because it's fresh. I hate asking for help. I asked my sister for help to come and help me organize some paperwork that I had been avoiding for a really, really, really long time. And basically, I just handed her things and she did it for me. But the point is that we gave ourselves time to do it, and she was there, so I couldn't avoid it. Like I had a witness to know that I was avoiding it. And so she helped to do it for me, basically. And always lean on people for a little help.
Accountability. She was there. You knew you had to get it done.
I had to get
and
it
there's
done.
nothing wrong with taking some shortcuts. There's nothing wrong. You got it done. And you asked for help and you had some sister bonding time. I love that.
We did. We had a great time. And the thing is that thing had been hanging over my head for 2 years. And I had been giving it bandwidth and brain power, and it was bothering me. And I couldn't relax pretty much all summer until it was done, because it was in my face. And now that it's done, I'm so mad that I didn't do it before because I was unable to relax. And so, you know, I think putting that in a calendar would have helped me had I been a little bit more, had I placed time aside for it a long time ago and then honored that chunk of time and done it, would have been much better. But anyways, I learned a lesson.
Yeah, but key point is sometimes you just need to get somebody to help you with it.
Have you leaned on anyone this summer and asked for help on anything?
Just did it yesterday, came back from a road trip, and my house was a little bit messy with like things like strewn about, and you know, you just have it in your head. You're like, okay, well, I'm just going to take care of all this in a couple of hours. And then I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to do that. I am going to do some delegating here. And everything was done in 45 minutes, whereas it would have taken me 2 hours. But it's just like you get in your head where you're like, I will just take care of all of this stuff. And you kind of forget. Same thing in a classroom. You know, you don't have to take care of all of those smaller tasks. There are 25 other people who are happy to help. So it's all about asking, right? It's all about asking. You asked your sister to help you. I asked my family to help. So that's an awareness thing, being aware of that and just not taking it all on yourself. So yeah, we had backpacks, clothes picked up, we had rooms cleaned, we had vacuuming done, we had grass cut. It was a teamwork effort. It was awesome.
Yeah, I bet you everybody felt really good afterwards and accomplished. So I hope you picked an emoji out of that calendar and threw it in because,
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah, I mean, my kids were not like, they weren't like jumping up and down excited, but they were happy to contribute, of course.
I would be remiss if I didn't also mention that in that process, you're teaching your kids how to live on their own eventually, which is the goal
Yeah.
of parenting. So not only did it take something off your plate, but it also gave your kids, you had faith in them that they could accomplish these things. They did, and it's teaching them how to, do that when they're on their own one day, not a bunch of learned helplessness.
Yeah. I just always have it in my head now. The proverb, it's a proverb that you brought up many episodes ago on the podcast. Many hands make light work. Okay. I hadn't heard that until we started doing this. I know it's a popular proverb, but it just got me thinking, you know what? Yes. You can do that at home. You can do that at school. It's just so true. And everybody contributes. So
Well, and some cultures have that down, it's very community based and people come together and it's not, well, I did this for you. It's just a really communal thing. And I think we've moved towards a very individualistic society to some
yes.
degree. And so we train people to find success only, individually, let's say. So I think there's a lot of lessons in working as a team towards a common goal and without payment, let's say. Oh, but it's nice to celebrate at the end, of course.
Yes. Okay. So just to wrap up this topic, we're talking about just really being intentional and scheduling in those times, choosing your time blocks, using a timer if you need to, scheduling things to make them automatic, food prep, scheduling that. If you're into food prep, if you're not, then don't do it. Let's say you're into organization, time block that one closet you want to organize. Don't start with the biggest one, start with a small one, but just give yourself that time, put it into that calendar. I just find that when you see it, when you're able to check it off, it's so helpful. And don't book yourself solid. Give yourself those buffer zones. Give yourself those breaks, like when you're using the Pomodoro method. Give yourself that 5-10 minute break. And on to the last topic. I know that you and I think this is very important, Alex, is to schedule one thing, maybe more than one thing, that's just for you into your calendar, right? A lot of the things on the calendar can be for other people. So many things. But what is on that calendar for you? So something you love to do, maybe something you're working on that brings you joy. You do not have to wait until summer to do these things. You can start small and you can do it when you want to do it. What does that involve for you, Alex?
I'm going to answer that question not listing what I'm booking, but I'm going to answer it as valuing what I need to do for me as just as important as what I need to do for others so that I can show up for others with full heart, good intention, and just like, with some energy. And so it's about, if I want to book off time to read a book or to watch TV or to go for a walk or to go and hang out somewhere, whatever it might be that I want to do for me, I put it in the calendar because it has equal value. And in the same way that I don't get to move around a bunch of things that I'm doing for other people, I don't need to move around what I'm doing for me, because ultimately it will end up at the bottom of the list.
Yep.
That's the risk. That is the risk for all of us, is when you're being torn in all these different directions, is that you're always choosing to do for others, whether it be work or obligation and opportunity within family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is deprioritizing self. And so that's what I'm looking at. And I'm at a point where I'm pretty good at doing this. And I feel a bit of shame saying that out loud, Chelsea. Or I don't know if it's shame or embarrassment or
You shouldn't feel any of those things.
no, but it took a lot of suffering
Yeah.
and I mean suffering, and probably a lot of really big health risks to get to the point where I had to do things differently. And so I'm just also mindful about the fact that it is easier for me to do now than it was when I was in the thick of it. So yeah, yeah, I know I shouldn't, but I do a little bit, if I'm being honest. What about you?
There is that. We've talked about this before too. There's the guilt thing where, you want time for yourself to do something for yourself and you need to communicate that to other people. I mean, there could be hurt feelings, but in my experience, there hasn't been. I've been met with,
Encouragement?
yes, encouragement, which is such a great feeling. And I think it teaches, let's say, your kids, the people around you, to value their time and their passions as well.
So what is the one thing for you that you make sure that you block off, or like a theme of something that you do that you block off?
Oh, I have so many things actually.
Oh,
I
good.
have so-
Well, that's
yeah, it's like once you start, you just kind of keep going, right? So
kind of addictive.
like, I've got to have my mornings. I have my morning routine, so that is for me. Obviously, walking, definitely the podcast, and doing all of the work that comes along with the podcast. So I'm getting better at it. I'm getting
Yeah,
pretty good.
it's just a really big picture shift. So, and there's lots of ways to do it. Like when we talk, our examples are our examples. That's our lived
Yeah.
experience. That's what we enjoy doing. But like everybody enjoys something different. It's all about what works for you and you putting the value of writing it down and making it happen for yourself.
Yes.
Chelsea, before we end this one, I want to swing back to the idea of looking at the entire year and thinking about those really big things that happen. So I'm just going to throw out a few, and listeners are going to think of thousands of other ones, and good, put them in your calendar. So Halloween, Christmas, report card time, right before March break.
Then you've got Easter. You've got all of those special weeks that are scheduled into the year.
Right. And you've got students' emotion shift and change. So right before Halloween, they're really excited for a long time. Right after, they're a little bit like dead to the world, a little bit like they kind of have a sugar coma going on for a bit. And how do you adjust what you need and what they need and plan accordingly for that? And so I'll add on to that when it comes to personal things. Let's say, Easter is a really hard time for you because you've had a loss in that area. And all of April, all of March is a very pensive, sad time for you. How do you plan and carve in things that you need for yourself during that time? And how do you shift what you do in your classroom during that time to help support you so that you remain as awesome as possible and that transfers over to your students, right? So it's about really exploring that and thinking about that. And that's why that first point that we made about looking backwards at the last year is really useful to inform. Yeah.
Knowing what to plan, especially if you've already experienced it. And we have to talk about the weather. The weather causes changes in everyone. So really thinking about that, and we cannot forget full moons. I mean,
it's the truth.
It's unbelievable. You come home from school and you're like, wow, those kids were so squirrely today. I don't understand what's, and then it's a full moon. It never fails for me.
No, I mean, if you live anywhere where you have had, 2 weeks straight of indoor recess, we would call it, because of very cold weather or because of very hot weather, or now because of wildfire season, and the kids are inside all the time, it shifts the dynamics, it shifts the mood, it shifts the energy, and you have to be able to last minute adjust. And Yeah, so that's definitely something to look at. I mean, you want to know what my favorite time in the calendar year is January, because the kids already know everything. They know the routines. The whole Christmas hoopla is over. They've recovered from that, like kind of regulated, let's say. They come back to school and I feel like students are happy to be back at school at that point. And I always find that that's my like perfect Goldilocks spot to get really good teaching in. And it happens to also fall before report card season starts to come up. So for me, knowing that, I teach very richly. I don't want to use the word aggressively. What is a better word than aggressively, Chelsea? I teach robustly during that time. And I really encourage the students to produce really a lot of work during that time because I find it effective. I don't find May and June effective. I find that I have to shift everything in May and June because the students are different in May and June. And so it's knowing that piece and noting that and planning accordingly. And
Yes.
also, yeah, for me in May, June, well, I'll say in June, I am really tired and I need to shift it so that the students have more responsibility in their learning. I don't want to be up in front of the classroom as much because I don't have that energy. And
Yeah, you have to think about your moods and how things are changing for you. Super important as a teacher. So, with that, let's leave listeners with this little reminder. In September, remember, you choose what fills your time and you make space for what fills your well. Very important.
so it's September. Yes, it's a very busy time, but we had some months to fill up that well. And the goal of this episode is to keep that well as full as possible. And we are hoping beyond hope that using this calendar system and being mindful about it will keep the well as full as it can kind of remain. But we're teachers, it's not easy.
No, it's not. But planning with intention and scheduling things in and doing things for you can help you keep some water in that well throughout the year.
I have to repeat something that was said earlier. Just remember, it's September. I choose what fills my time. I make space for what fills my well.
And now let's jump into the takeaways. Number 1, think about where you are now. Begin with a pause. Check in with yourself honestly because awareness is the first step to managing your time and energy with care.
2, start with self-awareness. Track your rhythms. Notice when you're energized and when you're not. Use this awareness to plan with intention, not just routine.
3, look ahead. Look 3 to 4 months ahead if you can and highlight your busiest times now. Planning in advance protects your peace later.
4, anchor the non-negotiables. Put personal priorities and wellness habits on the calendar first. It matters to you. Give it space before everything else fills in.
And 5, habits and rest. Treat your habits like appointments. Use visuals, check boxes, or emojis to stay motivated. And don't forget to schedule that rest in too.
Thanks for listening to the EduWell podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a positive review. It helps others to find us.
Follow us on Instagram and Pinterest to help spread the word. For more inspiration, tips, and book recommendations, just head to the show notes and join the EduWell newsletter today. Until next time, be well
and do well.